Namaste.
Namaste.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome from South Asia Watch on Trade, Economics and Environment. And thank you for accepting our invitation. I am Paras Kharel, Executive Director, SAWTEE. And this is the first in a series of webinars being organized by SAWTEE in collaboration with the Asia Foundation. This is part of a civil society forum initiated to discuss common issues of regional interest and to chart out pathways for cooperation at the regional and global levels. Several regional and sub-regional cooperation initiatives are currently in place. Some are old, some are new, moving at different paces, from SAARC to BIMSTEC to BBIM. Raising awareness among and ensuring participation of a cross-section of civil society is critical if these initiatives are to reflect local needs and priorities, and also for the success of these initiatives. Thus, this forum seeks to mobilize and promote partnership and networking among civil society organizations in the region, to demystify regional cooperation initiatives for the benefit of the wider civil society, and to provide key policy proposals and pathways. In the first phase of the forum, the webinars will focus on transport connectivity, trade and investment, and climate change. Today's webinar zeroes in on BIMSTEC, and within BIMSTEC, the Master Plan for Transport Connectivity, which was adopted by the 5th BIMSTEC Summit this year. What does this plan address? What does it not address? And what are the implementation issues? And how can civil society contribute to its implementation? This is what we are about to discuss. And remember, by its own admission, the plan is a live document. Hence, there is ample or should be ample room for flexibility and evolvement and improvement. We are fortunate to have the presence of eminent experts in the panel. A couple of housekeeping rules to ensure a smooth session. We kindly request you to keep your microphone muted when you are not speaking. We would also like to request you to ask questions either by pressing the hand raise option on Zoom during the question and answer session, or simply write your questions in the chat box at any time. Thank you for your cooperation. This webinar is being recorded and will later be disseminated to the wider public. Without further ado, I hand over to Dr. Poshraj Pandey, Chairman, SAWTEE, to moderate this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kharel. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me join Dr. Kharel to welcome you all in this webinar. As you know, the Charter of BIMSTEC states one of the objectives of BIMSTEC is to establish multidimensional connectivity by promoting synergy among connectivity framework in the region. Towards this goal, the 5th BIMSTEC Summit held this year in Colombo has adopted BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity. The primary objective of the Master Plan is to strengthen connectivity between and within the BIMSTEC countries through improved multimodal and intermodal transport. Its operational areas as identified in the Master Plan are road and road transport, railways and rail transport, port and maritime transport, inland transport, multimodal and intermodal transport, trade facilitation, and human resource development. The Master Plan also discusses monitoring mechanism as well as financing issues. In fact, the adoption of this Master Plan by head of states of BIMSTEC countries is the recognition of the seamless transport connectivity and efficient trade facilitation as a regional public good. In fact, transport connectivity is a prerequisite for reduction in trade cost and thereby promotion of trade and investment in the region. The progress in other areas of cooperation as identified in BIMSTEC, such as tourism, agriculture, and food security, and also people-to-people contact, all these also depends on the state of transport system. So connectivity is key, for the success of BIMSTEC. So against this, background, as Dr. Kharel pointed out, the objective of this webinar is to discuss The key component of master plan is implementation and financing issues. Okay, with this remark, let me request Dr. Ganesh Prasad Pandey for inaugural address. Dr. Pandey is currently serving as Secretary in the Office of the Prime Ministers and Council of Ministers, Government of Nepal. Before joining Prime Minister's office, he was a Secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Supplies, and he has led many government delegations on various BIMSTEC and SARC meetings. Dr. Pandey, over to you.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Posraj. Actually, you and Dr. Paras already highlighted the opening remarks. So I would like to add some of the points in addition to the important point you raised. Good afternoon, all the participants. Dr. Thaim Hill, Director, ADB, Professor Prabir D, RIS India, Mr. Ravi Saiju, Mr. Harminda Khatun, Executive Director, Dhaka, Mr. Achut Bandari, co-founder, CRBS Thimpu, Mr. Rohan Masa Korala, CEO, CPOS Academy Internationals, and all the participants, including the chairpersons of SAWTEE, Dr. Posraj Pandey. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Posraj and South Asia Watch on Trade, Economics, and Environment, SAWTEE, for inviting me in this discussion program on BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity. I'm very pleased to stand here as a keynote speaker and wish to highlight the prospects and challenges of regional integration among the member states of BIMSTEC. Let me first highlight the importance of BIMSTEC. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Let me first highlight the importance of BIMSTEC that connects 1.6 billion people living in the South Asia and Southeast Asia across the Bay of Bengal region. It aims to promote shared prosperity, active collaboration, and mutual assistance on the matter of common interest in the economic, social, technical, and scientific field, as well as to promote free trade within the region, increase cross-border investment, tourism, and promote technical cooperation. It also underscores the importance of promoting multidimensional connectivity in order to facilitate trade and enhance investment as a major contributing factor for fostering economic and social development in the region. Today's discussion topics on regional connectivity, BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity is a timely and important one for this region. And for Nepal in particular, the government of Nepal has made good progress in turning the economy to make the foundation of sustainable economic growth and reduce poverty. But the challenges ahead are still large and strong, including low level of investment and employment, high trade costs, growing trade deficit, low level of logistic infrastructure, especially the trade logistic infrastructure, and deficit in balance of payment. The evidence also shows that Nepal is not exploiting the comparative advantage of regional connectivity through utilizing rail and waterways rather relying mainly on road transport as a means of trade and transport, which contributes to the challenge faced by the system. Similarly, it has not yet fully capitalized the potential of digital connectivity and energy connectivity. In this regard, promoting regional connectivity among BIMSTEC members provides a major opportunity to enhance trade and thus economic growth. Today, we live in a world that is very different from the one which existed before 30 years. We witness a multipolar world, having multiple interests that bound together by trade, investment, and technology as never before, along with growing competition and protection that had become stronger than ever. In order to overcome such challenges, regional integration is growing that may help industries and the countries to adjust the competitive winds of globalization. Most importantly, regional integration and connectivity shall offer the member state a way to resolve issues that would be more difficult to resolve in the wider multilateral context. However, despite geographic proximity and cultural affinity, regional trade among the BIMSTEC members is substantially lower than East Asia and the Pacific. It is expected that promoting connectivity among member states would further liberalize the trade by securing greater access to larger markets and thereby attracting FDI or raising domestic investment. In addition, it will help in dealing with the region-specific issues such as border controls, phytosanitary restriction, weak transport system, and regulatory differences. Among various means of regional connectivity, transport connectivity is a fundamental prerequisite for regional integration. The development of the master plan for transport connectivity would be a strategic document to guide action and promote synergy among various connectivity frameworks in order to achieve enhanced connectivity and sustainable development of the region. The master plan presents a comprehensive 10-year strategy and action plan for improving the sub-region's transport linkage across the Bay of Bengal initiative for BIMSTEC members. It covers both hard and soft infrastructure, including services, to achieve enhanced connectivity and sustainable development in the BIMSTEC region. This master plan is particularly important for Nepal to reap the benefit from trade and investment promotion, as well as making progress in other areas of cooperation, such as tourism, people-to-people contact, and cultural exchange. Improving logistic infrastructure and logistic governance in Nepal would also boost trade volume, trade competitiveness, and export growth and diversification, supporting to become a dynamic middle-income country and building on an increasingly dynamic private sector. The master plan would be a valuable resource for identifying what needs to be done to enhance regional integration and conceive a more dynamic and efficient system that supports the country's record of robust growth and industrialization. Finally, the political will and commitment by the member state is a key for the success of this master plan, besides the creation of an appropriate policy and regulatory framework, development of a pipeline of bankable projects to accelerate the implementation of infrastructure, addressing of social and environmental concern, development of human resources capacity, and partnership with the private sector in infrastructure are key to the successful implementation of the master plan. With this remark, I wish a grand success of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Dr.
Pandey, please
Pandey,
unmute.
I think your microphone is muted.
Yeah.
You have muted me.
No. You muted yourself.
Oh, okay. Someone muted me. That's against democracy. Anyway, thank you, Dr. Pandey, for setting the tune of this webinar. Okay. Someone muted me. And highlighting the concern of Nepal on areas of trade and transport.
There is something wrong.
There is something wrong. Just.
You are using same time
Yes.
two multiple devices,
Yes.
You have to disconnect one.
Okay, it's muted.
You are using same time two multiple devices. Yes. You are using.
Okay.
Yes. Multiple devices.
Hello, Time. How are you?
Hello, Pandey. Nice to see you.
No. I think I have corrected this. Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Pandey, for setting the tune of the webinar and highlighting the concern of Nepal on areas of trade and transport, also challenges for exploiting the competitive advantage. And much more importantly, I mean, you have expressed the commitment of the government of Nepal on the implementation of the master plan. So thank you again, I mean, for this inaugural speech. Now I call upon Dr. Thiem Hee Eng. Dr. Eng is Director, Regional Cooperation and Operation Coordination Division, Asian Development Bank. He's an economist with expertise in areas of regional cooperation, strategic planning, financial integration, macroeconomic surveillance, and bond markets. Dr. Eng, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. And thank you so much to SAWTEE and for inviting. And I see many good friends here, including the speaker, Dr. Pandey, who I just met, I think, just 2 weeks ago, although he's in a different office than when I met him the last time now, as I heard. So so very, very nice to see all the open. Of course, we are also very familiar with Rabi, who I've been working closely at ADB in Nepal. So so it's a great honor, it's a great privilege to be here among and discussing this very important topic of the BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity with all our experts from the region and from Nepal. So so we have of course been very, very closely involved supporting BIMSTEC, and I can actually say that we have actually taken our partnership with BIMSTEC up another level when we signed an MOU with the BIMSTEC Secretariat this year. So we are actually the only international organization to have an MOU with BIMSTEC. So that shows how strong our relationship is. I'm also very happy to see that this is this event is is organized with the civil society organizations in mind. Here in ADB, of course, we see civil society organization as playing an important role. In our strategy, we have always look to strengthen civil society cooperation with civil society to sort of help improve our development work in the country. So very glad to see that this is this event. We have our friends from a civil society organization here as well. So Dr. Panda already mentioned some of the things, so I'll just try to give the perspective of the BIMSTEC Transport and Master Plan from sort of a regional perspective, from ADB sort of perspective. BIMSTEC, as we all know, is an organization that was established way back in 1997. At that time, there were 4 countries: Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and then we have Myanmar, Bhutan, Nepal joining later. So it's it's a pretty big organization, about 4% of global GDP and having 1.7 billion people. So BIMSTEC has a unique role because it sort of serves as the bridge between the sub-region of South Asia and Southeast Asia. So that's why I think we always see BIMSTEC as playing an important role on, because there's a lot of potential, right, for trading between South Asia, Southeast Asia, and also from learning from each other's experience. So BIMSTEC has an important role, and that's what we do here also in ADB, where we see, there are some countries in BIMSTEC as part of SASEC, and some countries in BIMSTEC as part of GMS, and we try to sort of, and ASEAN, and then we try to sort of work together to help improve regional cooperation. In ADB, fostering regional cooperation is one of our key operational priority. And, many times the bank's leadership have affirmed that we are actually very much into promoting deeper, wider, and more open regional cooperation and integration. So especially, given this role of BIMSTEC being able to sort of help us broaden our cooperation across not just one sub-region, but across another sub-region. As highlighted by Dr. Pandey in his remarks, the transport is of course crucial for BIMSTEC. So this is an important part of important linchpin, if you want to say, of regional cooperation. But sadly, as we all know, BIMSTEC lags behind in transport connectivity. So this is sort of limits our potential for greater intra-regional trade. So this is sort of like the impetus why we, why the BIMSTEC, leaders came out with the idea of having a transport master plan. So we are very proud to have been, tasked with supporting this very important work. So the work was starting way back in February 2018, and then there was a lot of discussion as is, with the different member states, and finally we got the final draft that was approved, that was submitted in September 2020, and we have the master plan that was approved in April 2021 and adopted at the BIMSTEC Summit just this year in March 2022. So what's the deal with this BIMSTEC master plan, right? So what's the vision? The vision is we want to have a prosperous, sustainable BIMSTEC region. So we want to do this through enhancing trade, increasing mobility, sustainable development, and economic growth. So there are 8 areas that the BIMSTEC master plan covers. One is road transport, railway, ports, inland water transport, civil aviation, multimodal transport, trade facilitation, and human resource development. So basically, almost everything is covered within this transport master plan. So transport master plan covers 10 years, 2018 to 2028, and basically has an action plan for improving the region's transport linkages, covering both hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. So this is, I think, an important part, because a lot of time, many of these transport master plan, they just focus on the hard part, right? And we all know the challenges that could happen in terms of border crossings, where there can be very long delays and so on due to excessive red tape. So the emphasis about, improving the soft infrastructure is also very important. So the master plan has key features, which I think highlights what is value added here. So it builds upon the regional vision articulated during the 4th BIMSTEC Summit. It also builds upon the transport logistics studies. And so this it comes out with a much more strategic and forward-looking plan for transport connectivity in the region. One thing that the Transport Master Plan does not have is a detailed financing proposal, since many of these projects, financing is always changing because the global financial markets, local domestic financial situation all can change. So we have ADB, we support this with a separate study. So we have done another study where we look at what are the options for financing this transport infrastructure in BIMSTEC. So, so we have done that study, and it is important that, to emphasize, the amount of funding needed for the Transport Master Plan is large. ADB, of course, will be very supportive and fund a large part of it, but again, the amount is immense, and definitely we need to bring in every avenue of funding available, including, of course, private sector as well. Countries are expected to put the master plan projects in their respective national development plans and proactively enforce the master plan policies. So we will, of course, continue supporting countries. And one of the key part, actually, one of the things that we are planning to do is to have a plan on how to implement. So now that we have the plan adopted, let's start thinking about, how do we go about implementing the list of projects that we have. So that's the kind of work that we are starting, and ADB will sort of work together with the countries. So I think the important note to end is again, the importance of all the countries in the region working together, because to sort of support this vision of the master plan of having a seamless multimodal connectivity across the whole region. So I would like to wish everyone a very active discussion, and looking forward to hearing the thoughts and views about this. And thank you so much. And again, thank you for SAWTEE for inviting me to give this special remarks. Thank you. You're muted again.
Mute me. Thank you, Dr. Eng, for highlighting the contribution of ADB from the inception of this master plan to the preparation to the preparation of the plan itself, and also elaborating the various components of the master plan, including its implementation and importance of software and full implementation. Okay, we are quite, happy to know that ADB is working on the issues of financing this master plan, where the master plan itself is silent on the financial part. Well, thanks for your contribution. Thank you once again. It's our pleasure to have you here in our program. Now I turn to our key presenter. First presentation will be made by Professor Praveer De, and second by Ravi Shankar Soizu. Dr. De is a professor at Research and Information System for Developing Countries, RIS, New Delhi. He's also the coordinator of Asian India Center AIC at RIS. He works on the field of international economics and has a research interest in international trade and development. He has been conducting policy research for Government of India and several national and international organizations, including UN Agency, Multilateral Development Organization. Now, Professor De, you have the floor, and I think some allocated time is 15 minutes for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Pandey. It's a great pleasure meeting you as always, and also to see so many friends and across the world through virtually. And thank you, SAWTEE, for the invitation. Nice to meet Dr. Thiam, Medibi, and many others. I can go on looking at the list of participants. But since this is not a political campaign, I should not cite their names. No need. But rather, I better concentrate on my presentation. So I have a slide, and I said to Paras that I'm not going to just say what is there on the public domain in the BIMSTEC Transport Connectivity Master Plan, and it is accessible to everybody. There's no point repeating all those. So rather, I will concentrate more into what exactly my views on the connectivity master plan and what the gaps and sort of a way forward. I said sort of because I won't be able to give the big picture the next round. So let me come host disable participant screen sharing. Can you just enable my system so that I can share my PPT? Dr. Paras, can you enable my my system so that I can present?
We are doing that.
It is disabled at the moment. Can you enable? Yeah. Good. I minimize. I go back to my first slide.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and I switch off my video for better presentations. So what I'll be doing for next 15 minutes or so, talking about the overview of the master plan connectivity and the next steps. There will be some little bit academic, element. If I just start from the beginning, a 15 minutes short film, and without a better introduction, you will not listen to me, right? There should be some lyrics in it. So pardon me, coming with little stuff on why connectivity is so important, etc. There is a cross section of people, both from diplomacy, both practitioners, so they should also know. So overview is that why it is so important, connectivity, what are the initiatives in the Bay of Bengal, and that would lead me to compare with what is there with the BIMSTEC Transport Master Plan and the challenges and opportunities, and then at the end we will have some the takeaways. Now, if you put a map in the first, you can see that every country is having a multiple border points. So they share international borders with themselves and also with the non-members like China or like Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, And if you see the Sri Lanka, which is connected by the world to the ocean. So in a way, any master plan or transport connectivity that way needs to be multimodal, and just not that land alone, you have to look at other modes. And second point would be, how do we connect our neighbors, the bigger markets? In that way, BIMSTEC Transport Connectivity Master Plan is just a good beginning. It has many gaps because it is a political document. So we have to elevate this, member countries should elevate this to the next level. That's what the elevation, which way you drive it, that I will speak about it. Next is why the connectivity is so important. One is basically connectivity means it is connecting the nodes. It could be virtual, it could be physical, it could be people to people. So there is a very strong support. I'm not telling a theoretical support, it's a very strong literature. 3 points for the landlocked, least developed countries who will be elevating to developing countries very soon. Strengthening connectivity means strengthening economic growth, supply chain efficiency, and the supply chain resilience. That's the part of the reliability. And connectivity master plan is that those nodes, the clusters, they need to be well connected. That's what all other plans have been done in the different member states, different subnational elements, different plans. A master plan of a regional program means they connect each and every node, bring out the optimum picture. That's what all have been done. And I prefer, all other things is that Douglas Brooks, 2008, what and Paras knows him, that he read 10,000 millions of books, but he left my life very easy, that I don't have to read all those. After reading that, he came out with the schematic presentations, very simple way, that it runs that if you improve infrastructure, connectivity, it reduce the cost, means reduction in the cost means we improve a comparative advantage, means reveal comparative advantage, that allow higher advantage means in an open economy, trade flows goes up. Then comes the ADB and other organizations, people like Dr. Tham and his team to talk about regional integration and cooperation and to elevate entire program. That is, the master plan is supposed to do. Support through trade investment, value chain, people-to-people relations, tourism primarily. There is a huge demand for infrastructure needs. The connectivity master plan is a political document. It doesn't talk about financing, but the need is very high. Mekong, sorry, my pardon, McKinsey. How can I say McKinsey is a Mekong? McKinsey and OECD together, they came out with kind of a number like 4.7 trillion to 6 trillion per year requirement. That's a big number. And anything we come out with a master plan, they should give us the country-wise infrastructure need, national as well as regional. That's what I didn't find here, Two types of infrastructure, easy for the policy software side, hardware side, and it's a known fact. That's what done by the connectivity master plan, the one but done by ADB for the BIMSTEC and also the others. Whereas ADB is lacking, others are, moving up, which is that they didn't talk much about the links with, value chain, the quality FTAs and all those digital. And before I come to the next part, what our region is doing in terms of if we are going for a common market, I do not know when, if we are going for a regional market, then for 6 areas which are very common and very popular, EU standard, this is a kind of a diamond standard called the harmonization of and integration of road and railway network. That means connecting the national plan with the regional plan, maritime waterways network, common aviation, one custom, transit, contactless trade, paperless trade, on which others have done relatively, but we haven't done much. That's what we have to elevate there. Some people can say, no, this may not be our path. That is done by European Union and some of them others. Our could be a different, but I have to see what's the difference. In between, the connectivity is getting huge attention. Every regional plan, and even the latest one, like in the Pacific, they all are coming up with the connect, because connectivity, by the way, in the literature of economic science, this is not there. It is an award introduced by the practitioners and diplomats, and it counts economic science plus diplomacy. So I'm not going to talk about every details of it. So that's why it's a beauty is that it has a very high appeal. So connecting many regions through a connectivity, this is where I see, advantage for banks like ADB and least developed developing countries like the Bay of Bengal regions. What about other regions like ASEAN as a master plan? But look at their pillars. Sustainable infrastructure, it is not there in ADB BIMSTEC. Digital innovation, not there. Seamless logistics, regulatory coherence, people mobility is not there. So ours is a kind of a master plan we've seen, which is then a political document, but ASEAN is more kind of a market driven. And why not? Because ASEAN is a market driven FTA, right? That we have seen. European Union, the 10T, I'm not going to all details. And we have this BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC, they have identified 11 areas from road transport to implementation, 214 projects and 69 billion, likely in 2018 value, by the way. This to be remembered, by the way. 69 billion, if it is the correct value, I picked up from the document. I may be corrected if I'm wrong. It is in 2018 price, by the way. That's to be corrected, need to be noted. And there are, this document talks about kind of a multimodal arrangements, connecting the different nodes like ports, several cluster points, three dominant existing trade routes, as we know that route 1 is basically eastern part of India with southern within Gulf of Thailand. Route 2 from eastern part of India with the Bangladesh and going forward, and the next Myanmar and Thailand, and so also connecting Bhutan and Nepal in the enter. So this is in general shared by ADB earlier discussion. What's the BIMSTEC Master Plan is going to, but I don't find this map in the final document. But I'm happy, and you will also agree with me that BIMSTEC at the moment is the most happening place. You buy it or not, these are the clusters. There are many ports, terminals, SEZs, digital, etc., etc. There could be a dispersion. You can see where is Nepal and Bhutan, but my purpose is to tell you they are very much part of it. The project like a Matarbari, which is done by the Japanese at the moment, and all the way to the Sabang Island, which is India. So from the top, you can see several clusters of things are happening. Somehow, countries like Myanmar, even there are multiple ports, but at the same time, Bhutan or Nepal, or for that matter, other landlocked countries, they are not well integrated to this new development at this point to me, even though I feel that it's the most happening place. Let me see very quickly that what's done in the last 25 years, because this is the 25th year. BIMSTEC Charter signed under implementation, 2 years gap for the summit. Current chairperson, Thailand has a huge responsibility, by the way. BIMSTEC Connectivity Master Plan signed and under implementation. It is called Transport Connectivity Master Plan. It has a limited focus. Motor vehicle negotiation, nowhere is going. Until that is done, there's many of the connectivity project identified may not take place or maybe got delayed. And now they call the coastal shipping as a maritime cooperation agreement, which is, text has been finalized. This is a good development. If we do a strategy for the master plan for the next, I've been telling it the next because the one which we have in public domain, very, very narrow focused. We need to think the quality of free trade agreement, the trade, how it is, roaming around. So these are the trade agreement they have signed, and BIMSTEC without any FTA. They are, relatively speaking, trade is going up, but it counts also the inflation, right? And this 46 billion interregional trade might be having a 10% inflation amount as a need. I do not know, but the point is interregional trade is riding. Countries are looking at quality FTAs for its rising in exports globally. And since the hardware part of the connectivity is not picking up, there are barriers at the border point. Software side, like trade facilitation, which is, they have done pretty well in terms of introducing the digital, etc., etc. In the 5 areas, even as CAP indicators indicate, and many of you who are attending, they are all aware of it. Relatively speaking, BIMSTEC has done pretty well compared to other sub-regions, and within BIMSTEC, Thailand and India, has many best practices while offering in cross-border paperless trade or bringing the transparency in pictures. The one, when you do a kind of a next phase of BIMSTEC Master Plan connectivity form, we need to see that how India as well, has translated a very shallow FTA into a more value chain oriented. It took time, 20, 25 years. So now see some of the things, which the automobile, computer, the highly demanded drugs by Indians. This drug is highly demanded because almost about 60–70% of Indians of different ages, they consume more after the COVID diabetic tablet, like the tablet, it is not diabetic pharmaceutical, but this is a one which we use, the Samsungs, the telephone, recent one, the Apple iPhone 13 by Indian at the Foxconn factory. So these developments, and if I come kind of a slightly low level, like the company like Chaudhary Group in Nepal, like Wow Wow Chow, so many popular And it's simply not a trade, by the way. It's not manufactured in Nepal and exported back to the Indian market. There are many back and forth, like the pran from Bangladesh, or a druk from Bhutan, the lupin laboratories in Sikkim. So there are also many small areas, low-level value chains that happen without our knowledge, because one is an FTA and other was the market, by the way, and the brand. So these four new developments, which is the FTA-driven value chains, need sophisticated, high-quality infrastructure connectivity. These are somehow not captured well, in the ADB document. As I said, ADB document is a political document. They are professionals in the headquarters, but when it comes to the member states, their hands are tied. Their lips are shut down on that. So they need to elevate it from that. Let's come to the last part of presentations. That there are three challenges when you go for a next stage. There's a barriers, NTMs, FTA could not do in the BIMSTEC so far, and the trade investment is also very negligible, and we know the story. So last 25 years, economic achievements, there are some moderate things done, but largely it is still we haven't elevate our economic relations to a higher level. Neither we could unlock some of their potentials. These are my slides. I will leave it here. I'm not going to repeat, the BIMSTEC Master Plan connectivity, what it talks about. There's the building block. It has an overarching vision, the peaceful, prosperous, sustainable BIMSTEC region. It has a strategic objectives. I'm surprised, by the ADB using the word strategic, simply a political objectives. They should not use, they should use the objectives for doing and the master plan. And there are master plan of vision, like this, operational areas, cross-cutting issues, implementation. Very nicely they are portrayed, but there are some other things which, according to me, they should have avoided. But anyway, when they go to the member states, they don't have much to do except settling from the port capital to capital. Nicely, they have done the master plan of connectivity with objectives, and there are several, 8, pillars, from road transportation to human resource development. I found through the consultation, they have, on the road transportation, they have adequately picked up, but what they have missed out, the Bhutan's eastern corridor connecting northeast through the Bangladesh to the Bay of Bengal, didn't get any space. I'm sure, our eminent speaker Achut will speak on it. The Nepal's connectivity with western side of India and east coast was missed out. The Nepal's connectivity with the Bangladesh in a larger way didn't pick up. And something happened. They must have done ADB, something the member states, due to their internal politics, they must have spoiled somewhere. Let me come to the schematic presentation. These are things we see from Kathmandu all that to Lamchabang. There are priority corridors. What surprised me, unlike the SRMTS and SARC multimodal transit transport report, this time ADB didn't provide adequate maps and illustrations, which is in high appeal. And trust me, you can compare both of them. So we had to dig out many from our own, what exactly the highway is going from, what exactly they are talking about. So this is basically the priority corridors, which is part of an trilateral highway and going into extended to the Mekong region. But I will tell this is a political document. There is a high, strong Indian element in it, by the way. The trilateral highway is a political highway. So where are the competitive highways and corridors? I don't find mine, by the way. I skip those. Let me come to the railways and the road transportation. Here also, very, very narrow focus. Like small areas, small border points. They need an overarching railway corridor from Kathmandu all the way to Kolkata, touching to the Guwahati and going into the Dimapur, all the way to the Imphal, crossing, coming to, Mandalay, crossing again to the Bangkok, and then, linking with the Singapore Kunming railway network. This could be, so this I didn't find, again, there is some kind of hands behind it. They tried a little bit, and let's come to the ports and shipping. This is where, our region, unlike others, unlike South China Sea, which is disputed, Bay of Bengal is very much in our region, no dispute. So they're, they have tried their best to give it a picture, connecting the major ports. These are, they have identified, but where, I didn't find much about talking other ports, the Chennai, Kolkata, Chattogram, Yangon, Renong, Colombo, they are heavily occupied. In between there are ports. Like, I have been telling it that Colombo needs, Sri Lanka, Nepal needs, Bhutan needs their own ports in Indian soil, pre-1947 arrangements. Their own ports possible. Those are not there, basically in the documents. Inland water transport, which is very doable and very highly demanded. But in my utter surprise, there is no map in here. It is simply a Bangladesh-India IWT map. Bangladesh-India IWT is purely a political thing. I expected bigger pictures. This is not there. Civilization, airport development. There are many programs, many projects, but open sky of passengers, open sky of the cargo, somehow is missing. This should be from the next page. Multimodal, intermodal transport, very limited phase I found. I'm sorry that I'm coming a bit critical because I need to be. This is the project they have highlighted, Kaladan. This project is going nowhere. This is a political project. Now come to the trade facilitation. Pardon me for my mistake. This is where trade facilitation is the doable, but ADB somehow bit silent on it. Anyway, ADB thinks it's the hardware part is more because of the investment. So next phase of BIMSTEC Master Plan should come to the trade facilitation, and I would rather suggest that where would be the trade facilitation should be. The areas of trade facilitation, I have a slide, and human resource development, they have rightly skilling, the plans, the coordination issues, those things they've highlighted. Implementation program, I'm not going to repeat them. They have talked about political will, which is a very general statement. If you go to the ADB headquarters, every room, small box room, they sit down, everybody talks about political will. So the cap to implementation means you need to prepare kind of a working group, elevating it to the joint study group, some going very detailed B2B engagement, those things are not there. So what exactly ADB missed out? I said the ADB, it should be the ADB plus BIMSTEC Secretariat. Border connectivity, it doesn't talk. Trade facilitation, very limited scope. Energy linkages is not there. Particular renewable energy as Nepal, Bhutan, they have bigger role. Digital connectivity doesn't get a single space. And moving to higher mobility and sustainable connectivity, in any way it won't come. If other four is not there, this public, this document won't come at all. Next page, and 5 minutes I conclude. Pardon me, I crossed my time, is that debt facilitation institutional arrangements. If I need to do something low hanging, that BIMSTEC countries, they have an added interest into coastal shipping. They have signed BIMSTEC coastal shipping, which is new name is Maritime Cooperation Agreement. See, kind of a diplomacy in play role. Without implementing the coastal shipping agreement, some diplomacy, some people coming here, and they change the name, Maritime Cooperation Agreement. And member state, the civil society, they are not even consulted. So because some nation in the BIMSTEC, they are dealing with maritime cooperation under Indo-Pacific. So they've all signed, but I need to see, how much is where they're going to. WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement, they are member. But when it coming to, kind of a regional arrangements or UN paperless, it's only Bangladesh leading. Others, they have not given any thought. This is where we are missing out exactly. I'm not an UNSCAP professional here. I see it's it would be an honest approach for all member countries. Either you do a kind of a paperless arrangement within yourself or join UNSCAP. This will help, because we are already signed EDI, already implemented. Land port community system is not there, but Thailand has already implemented. India is coming up, by the way. A single custom window, some or others under implementation, custom port. So with such kind of arrangements on the custom software side, it's possible to do a kind of a regional program. You can ask that everything is not done by WTO. So that is why we need a regional arrangements. And when ADB goes to a next phase, elevating the master plan, they should be very careful about it. 3 recommendations I make at my personal level. One is that single window, national, everybody should be ready, and then moving into regional single window, mechanism of paperless trade that we should design. And if you cannot do a regional one, then go and join UNSCAP one. And certainly, others are moving upwardly. This slide, little trash, I will say. Oh, what you are talking about again? That slide, economic corridor. What is it exactly? So ADB telling us that, look, if with a transport corridor you can't do much. You need to elevate. Now, with the master plan, they're putting us, again, my view is that they have identified role of government and private. And integrated trade facilitation, customs cooperation as a measure, policy of trade facilitation. So current plan is between 1 and 2 steps. So next steps, they should give us a better, better design of the master plan. Next new policy agenda, again, according to me, it should be the digitalization and simplification of process procedure. That is the paperless trade arrangements, because it doesn't need much investment, by the way. Point number 2 is trade facilitation, because everybody is having some or other regional value chain products, services. They need to move upwardly. Bangladesh is looking to sign so many agreements. I mean, I can go and speak on of them. I don't want to speak it here. They would be coming out from 2026 from LDC status. So also followed by Myanmar and Nepal and Bhutan, they need to pick up their friends, their trade partners, as well as new products and services. So trade facilitation, sophistication, diversification, those are the things should be consulted. Production network, trade facilitation, coordinated border management, kind of a border looking at a single unit. We call it shared border, and moving towards security. So this could be the new policy agenda. If ADB is thinking for a new master plan. 5 action plan have suggested that charter is in place. And so we need a very high level coordination. You cannot do just with the present 3-4 directors and one secretary general who gets its best posting in his whole career in diplomacy. No, you need a professionals, very high-end professionals, and support the secretary. Otherwise, it will be just a place going for my pleasure or whatever you call it. Strong secretariat is very important. Point number 3, the action plan is in ADB and other partners in implementations. Leave aside internal politics, all those things. We need other development partners as well. Knowledge center of BIMSTEC. Who is churning the knowledge on the BIMSTEC? ASEAN has so many. You go and pick up ASEAN site. Who is churning the knowledge for the connectivity? So SAWTEE, absolutely. RIS, yes. But you need to have a center dedicated who can do 24/7, 365 days working for the BIMSTEC. And that's what I said, the point number 5. Last slide, way forward. I said the Bay of Bengal is the golden heartland. It's a very strong word, and I believe in it. I form the region. I could not cross Atlantic or a Pacific. No, I'm a decimal, means I'm a product of this golden heartland. So I'm going to continue to tell it. High economic potentials, mostly unrealized. And we need to complete the connectivity, security projects. Those are some of them highlighted. Let's see Thai as a chairman. People in the Thailand is very nice and all the smiling, but they're easygoing. They need to pick up the projects, implement, because they are the chair of connectivity, the chair of a BIMSTEC, and upgrade to master plan to higher level. 5 points in the table I have highlighted. Upgrade to where? Connect digital, border, single custom, energy linkages. Engage dialogue partners, strengthening secretariat, strengthening inter-regional relations, and last but not the least, implement the FTA. These are my suggestion. If we do it, then this connectivity makes a sense, the plan. If we don't do others, then this will be a good report. And then consultants and the PhD. There are so many universities in Delhi. Is the name of several people, the political leaders of our country. And they bring out their PhD thesis by reading all those documents. This is going to be one of them. Sorry, sound to be a bit critical, but these are the frank, no opinion view when I'm sitting in front of a civil society, a very strong organization like SAWTEE, and my friend Posraj Pandey and Paras Khara. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Praveer, for your detailed presentation on connectivity. It's multiple layers and graphic presentations of various nodes of these layers. Also assessing the progress on the implementation of some of the components of master plan, and of course, and the challenges on implementations of this master plan. And much more importantly, you also highlighted shortcomings or missing points of the master plan. And I mean, you propose some elements of new agenda for upcoming master plan. Thank you once again for your such comprehensive presentation. Now I request Mr. Ravi Shankar Seju for presentation. Mr. Seju recently retired from the government of Nepal service of the government of Nepal as Joint Secretary and Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Supplies. I mean, during his tenure in the Ministry of Commerce, he was responsible for regional organizations such as BIMSTEC, SAARC, and also trade with India, our neighboring countries, India and China. His expertise is in the areas of trade facilitation, trade logistics, and transit issues. Mr. Seju, now you have the floor. Again, I mean, it's 15 minutes. I just want to remind you, 15 minutes is allocated for you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you very much for giving this floor. I mean, Dr. Day has already explained most of the issues in the trade facilitation also. So I will be presenting very short and some of the issues that we need to do in the trade facilitation part. Okay, I'm directly going to my presentation. Is it audible? My presentation, can you see it? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. So what's your... Yeah, today we'll just three parts, that is import and export, reducing NTM and activity challenge, and transit issue. Mostly I will deal with the transit issues only, cross-border issues here over here. So definitely ADB has supported the preparation of this master plan for the transport connectivity and a strategic document to achieve the enhanced connectivity and sustainable development of the region. And Dr. Day has already explained all about what is the main issues in the this document. So trade facilitation is one of the main subject of this BIMSTEC Master Plan. It has slightly covered it up and explained it. In the past, actually, the focus of trade facilitation was on the development of physical infrastructure only. When we talk about the trade facilitation, mostly people used to say and discuss on the physical infrastructure, particularly the facilities at the border crossing points. That is the main things. I mean, when we talk about regional connectivity and trade facilitation, people used to discuss only in these issues only. Presently, it has become increasingly clear that border practices and procedure are the critical one, because we have seen it during our, I mean, Nepal import-export also. We are having a lot of, problems in the procedure and practices. So only the infrastructure is not one cannot work, but the other things are also there. So that is also need to cover in the trade facilitation. And trade facilitation helps to create an enabling environment for the rapid economic development, no doubt on that part. Regarding hard infrastructure, the key issue are further development of the main border post, including associated dry ports and ICDs. And this part has already been highlighted in this master plan. And definitely in the region, a lot of ICDs and ICPs are also constructed during last 10 years. Even if you see in the Nepal also, we have already 2 ICPs already in the operation and 2 ICPs is still in the construction. There are some other ICDs, inland ICD has also been constructed in Nepal. And there are soft infrastructure issues mainly related to custom modernization and the engaging use of ICT. That is also one of the major part that we are going to do. I just want to highlight here what is the trade facilitation. It's just this is the definition of from the TFA. That is simplification, modernization, and harmonization of export and import process. Measure for effective cooperation between the custom and other appropriate authorities under trade facilitation. And modern technology are also encouraged to be implemented to expedite the trade procedures. So if you go through the TFA, WTFA, there is certain, aspect has been highlighted in for the trade facilities, and that is e-system, formalities relating to importation and exportation, including establishing a single window and minimizing document requirement. So that is one of the main issues actually in the trade facilitation, because if you see, between the India and Nepal, and the third country cargo that is coming through in the Nepal, definitely, in the traditional system, we have to submit at least 6 original documents in the Calcutta and the gateway port of India. And that create a lot of problems to the Nepalese importers and exporters. That was the main. So it is very necessary. Border cooperation among the border agency, harmonization of information, joint inspection, and shared resources. It is very necessary. And we have suffered a lot in these issues also due to the lack of harmonization. Even we are facing this problem with the Bangladesh trade with the Bangladesh also. Customs advanced ruling, simplified procedure for clearance, minimizing document requirements, single window system. It is also one of the major part for the this trade facilitation. Border infrastructure, risk-based inspection, capacity building, and testing facilities is another part that we need to have focus on trade facilitation. So it is just I'm just highlighting the NTM and NTB because these are a major problem we are facing in the cross-border trade actually. So this need to be rightly focused when we are discussing when we deal with the trade facilitation issue. Besides, there are other center and phytosanitary also. So these issues also because, frankly speaking, we face a lot of problems in the export, especially export in the center and phytosanitary agreement issues. So these issues also need to be highlighted, focused in the trade facilitation part. And regarding the transit issue, custom transit is defined in a specific annex in the revised Kyoto Convention as the custom procedure under which goods are transported under custom control. The fundamental understanding we need to have under this, especially in custom transit. There should not be no duties are imposed, possible administrative charges, no inspection, documentary scrutiny is only, and collection of guarantees upon entry and refund upon the exit, sealing of wagons and security tax, and possible track and traces. These are, certain issues that we need to have an understanding among our member countries when we deal with the trade facilitation part. The application of modern practices and procedure as promoted by the revised Kyoto Convention and the Trade Facilitating Agreement of the World Trade Organization can minimize the delays. Definitely, I mean, it can substantially reduce the delays in the crossing point. The modern train is for the facilities at the border to serve merely as a checkpoint for a freight traffic rather than as a clearance point. But unfortunately, this is not happening. Especially, we can see in this area region, most of them this crossing point are clearance points. They are using it, and due to the existing practice and procedure, most border posts act as an actual clearance point. That is the things we need to focus on this part. So if we have to, I mean, discuss, I mean, facilitation, this is one of the critical point we have to focus on that part. And most of the BIMSTEC members states lag behind the global standard of modern advanced logistics also. That is the major things that we lack, that is modern logistics, advanced logistics in the also, and which is likely cause the relatively low performance in the most of the memory states. That is, in the last decade, definitely there are a lot of, I mean, significant investment in the new border infrastructure and facility in the region that has been constructed. We can see a lot of, I mean, ICP and ICDs has been constructed even in the South Asian region, especially in Bangladesh, India, and even in Nepal also. So it has been done, but still we have to do a lot on that part. Another part is definitely the lack of harmonization of document and the clearance requirement is other major area of concerns. So definitely, if you want to successfully implement this transport master plan, definitely this is the major point. I mean, we have to focus on that part, because harmonization of document is a lot of, I mean, each country use the separate kind of document and there is no harmonization among them, and it is creating a lot of problems. We have seen it, even with in the South Asian region with the trade with the India and even with the Bangladesh and some other countries also. This where Nepal is facing very, I mean, problem in these issues. There are few mutual recognition agreement between the BIMSTEC member countries. Definitely, Nepal is trying to have a mutual agreement, even Myanmar with India and even with the Bangladesh also. It's not happening, and a lot of problems are there. Still, I mean, we could not come in a we could not conclude this MRA. The validity of test standard undertaken in BIMSTEC members stage is not accepted by another. In relations to import-export clearance wherever possible, and promote the development of a more mutual recognition agreement between the member states. That is very necessary. So in the last slide, I just want to highlight, I mean, some of the, I mean, gap assessment we have to do. If you want to, I mean, implement this transport agreement, I mean, master plan, then definitely we have to do some need assessment, I mean, gap assessment. That is among the countries, because there is some harmonization in these issues also. That is institutional and governance issues. It is very important because a lot of laws and procedures are different in the different countries. There must be some harmonization on that part. Level of automations. All countries are level of automation is not same. So it is creating also problem, I mean, digitalization of the process, and that is also another part. And information and communication technology infrastructure, standard operating procedure, disaster recovery plans, all these are, I mean, another issue that we have to see the gap and do the gap analysis for that. And we have to try for a same footing. Business process re-engineering, simplification, that is also necessary. Data harmonization and standardization is also one of the other issues that we have to see assess the gap analysis on that part also. Capacity building, knowledge, resources, skill sets is another part. Paperless transit, international transit regime and regional agreements also. So that is also just, probably has already highlighted in the issue of this paperless trade of various cap. So that is one of the another we can give the example. Cross-border mutual recognition, that trade documents, scientific documents that I have already highlighted on that part. And in the another is authorized economic operators. Its concept and it's a standard, and all these things need to be same in most of the countries. Electronic transaction and signature law, it is necessary because of absence of this signature law and electronic transactions also creating a problem in the trade facilitation. Paperless trade and single window laws, that is also another part. Cross-border other aspects are also there that we have to do the gap analysis for the smooth implementation of this master plan. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Pose.
Thank you, Mr. Seju, for raising the issue of software. That is basically trade facilitation, issues of trade facilitations, issues of non-tariff measures, and also highlighting the need for gap assessment. Thank you once again. Now we will move to next part of our program, that is comment on the master plan itself and the issue raised by Dr. Prabir and Dr. Seju by our discussant. Well, I've managed this discussion in this way. In the first round, I request discussant for providing their overall perspective on master plan and the presentations and made here, maybe in 5 minutes. Then in the next round, I put specific questions to each discussant. So for discussion, we have 3 discussants, Dr. Famida Khatun, Mr. Achut Bhandari, and Mr. Rohan Mashakarola. And I'm informed that some of the discussants couldn't make it because of their unexpected urgent task. So I see, Achut Bhandari ji over here. So I request Achut Bhandari ji. First, Mr. Bhandari is co-founder and prime mover of the Center for Research on Bhutanese Society, CRBS, a Thimphu-based think tank. He has 45 years of experience in national and international development issues, trade and regional cooperation, and he has worked both at senior official capacity in Bhutan, as well as a consultant at national and international level. He also worked as a Director General, Department of Trade, Royal Government of Bhutan, and also served as National Coordinator for Bhutan's accessions to WTO. He also worked in Bhutanese missions to the United Nations in New York, as well as in Geneva. Mr. Bhandari, now you have the floor. Maybe you're over here. I just want your overall perspective on master plan, as well as on the comments, as well as on the presentations made by Dr. Prabir and Mr. Seju. Over to you, Bhandari.
Thank you, Dr. Pandey, for your kind remarks. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I couldn't see you.
maybe unseen is better. Can you see me now?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay. Don't mind my cap because I have a shaved head just now, so I just protecting from chill a bit. Sorry. So coming back to the subject again, thank you for your kind introduction and also for inviting me for this very interesting discussion. Although it's a holiday today here in Bhutan, I guess it's the same in Kathmandu as well. But representatives of civil society organizations or NGOs, we work all the time. So I'm quite happy to work today. First, I will follow your. I'll follow your instructions for my comments, although I've had prepared, I had prepared separately. Now, first, with respect to the document, it is by all means it is a comprehensive document. All right. So I must, congratulate ADB for doing it. It really puts into perspective most of the connectivity issues that are involved, not only for facilitating trade that is so important for our region, given that we believe that 60% of the GDP of member countries really comes directly from trade. So that really underscores the need for improved connectivity and accompanying, different facets of it, including logistics, trade facilitation, border coordination, cooperation, and whatever you have. So my kudos to ADB. I'm not trying to defend them, but obviously I think as a regional bank, they must have been sensitive to the views of different member countries, and they have not gone far enough, especially in relation to coordination and implementation. All right, which are very important components in my view, as far as the master plan is concerned. Equally, as the ADB director mentioned, that the financing has not been detailed because that is a complex issue, and therefore I suppose it was difficult for the team, whoever prepared this report, to get into the details of it. But having said that, if we want this is a program, as I see it, a program for connectivity in BIMSTEC region, and therefore we have no alternative but to come down to the details, as Dr. Prabir Dey so so well covered in his presentation. So what I see this document as being some sort of a guide for the BIMSTEC countries to go into detail in each components of the report. Now, that is obviously going to be time consuming. So what may be better would be, out of all the proposals that they have put forward, sub-programs, I think BIMSTEC countries need to prioritize and move accordingly. And in this context, I think Dr. Sainzu also highlighted the gaps that are there in the project, and I should also like to mention some of them, which have been mentioned by Dr. Prabir Dey very comprehensively, in my view, and also by Dr. Sainzu. One of the areas is that, as I mentioned, who does the overall coordination? Is it the SAC Secretariat? Is it the intergovernmental group within BIMSTEC? I think there is one which does this coordination. If these two organizations involved, I think clear responsibilities between them have to be, delineated, which is not there. And as Prabir mentioned, that the BIMSTEC needs to be strengthened by professionals, not by diplomats, in order to provide professional input, services to the BIMSTEC member countries. That is my first point. Now, in terms of implementation, I suppose that by and large, the implementation will become, done by the member countries itself. But even here, since there are programs and projects that cross across borders, there too, one needs to be very clear which, member countries does what. If for instance, we were to improve the functioning of the port, let's say in Kolkata, then what elements a landlocked country has to do and what elements a transit country has to do, this sort of thing I think is absolutely necessary. Now, when leaders do meet, obviously they make political commitments at the highest level, which is good. But as practitioners, we know that political will does not necessarily translate during implementation. And I think that is where the problem is. So therefore, what we need to do now is really look at this study in detail, and to make the suggested programs and projects implementable. That means who is going to do what, when it is going to be done, and what sort of resources are needed. Who is going to finance certain components? Is it going to the national government? Is it going to be mobilized through development partners, and so on? So this is so in short, what I'm saying is this is a framework that has been created for more detailing and moving into implementation in stages. Although the duration of this project has been mentioned as being 10 years, we are already halfway now. 2023 is going to be coming very soon. So there is only 5 years left after that. So in order to achieve something by the end of 2028, we need to really prioritize projects, mobilize funds, and agree on implementation modalities. So coming to your second point, Dr. Pandey, very briefly, I really have no comments in addition to what I've already made in Dr. Baday's excellent and comprehensive presentation, where he has brought out a vision for BIMSTEC and also identified certain drawbacks in this comprehensive report. I'm sure that the participants will note them. As far as Dr. Sainju is concerned, he made a very excellent presentation on trace facilitation, which is a very important component of the whole study, and perhaps not adequately highlighted as both speakers mentioned earlier. What happens, for instance, is that in trade facilitation, there are too many delays because of lack of facilities, infrastructure, and automation, paperwork, and different standards followed by different countries, different documents followed by different countries. And at this time in 2022, when automation is really driving everything, it is regrettable that most of us BIMSTEC have not taken advantage of technology and created a framework like the national single window or the regional single window, wherein all these documents and information can be shared, through single or a series of pre-agreed document among the partner countries. And my final point, Dr. Pandey, is in relation to Bhutan. Prabir was very kind enough to mention a lacuna in the study where the eastern part of Bhutan has not been adequately covered, and I guess in the same sense the connectivity between eastern part of Bhutan to Guwahati, Shillong, and down to Dauki in Bangladesh. This corridor is a very important corridor for Bhutan and also for India and Bangladesh. And for your information, Bhutan is at the moment constructing a dry port in southeastern Bhutan, which would be a sort of a hub for our trade to other BIMSTEC countries, possibly using that corridor. So that point has been missing. And secondly, Bhutan has been constructing other dry ports. One has been mentioned here near in Phuentsholing, a place called Pasakha, which is under construction, and it will be ready within a year or so. A mini dry port is already functioning in Phuentsholing, and another dry port is being constructed at a place called Gelefu, which has not been mentioned in the document, although Gelefu has been mentioned as a possible trade and transit trade hub for Bhutan's trade with BIMSTEC countries. These are some comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Achutji. I'll come to another question in second round, but I don't see other discussant, Chairman. Dr. Famida Khatun and Mr. Rohan Mashakorala. So I put questions to our presenter. First, Dr. Prabir, I'm quite impressed. Being a citizen of landlocked country, you mentioned that Nepal and Bhutan, these two countries should own port in Indian soil. That's quite interesting proposal. So my question to you is, what could be the modalities to own a port in Indian soil?
Yeah. I think some historian in Tribhuvan University or somewhere in the world, they can dig out the files and tell us the royal highness of your country used to have their own navigation, own ports, a lot of facilities in and around Calcutta. So if you go during the British India time, Nepal was given a special privilege to have their own facilities. That the arrangement is possible, it used to be. Now, how this could be done in India? One is that there are several ports along the east coast and the west coast, which are ports is under Indian Constitution. It is in Schedule 3. Schedule 3 means, Schedule 1 means those are arranged, managed, owned, operated by the Government of Union of India.
Yeah.
Schedule 2 means those are owned, arranged, operated, developed by states of India. Schedule 3 means those are by jointly. So ports under Constitution is under Schedule 3. So the one way Nepal can have its own port is to deal with some of the states in India. In Orissa, for example, there are several ports of Orissa, Andhra, and they own, they are lying just empty. You get it on BOT for 99 years lease, which put with a high perpetuity, and develop it, so you will have its own right. India has set up the same model. It's called Indian public sectors were not allowed to go buy assets in the abroad, except the Indian embassy. So what India did under this present government, India has set up special purpose vehicle company, India International Global Port Operator Company Limited. It's a public sector company. It's allowed to own the ports in abroad, like in Chabahar in Iran, like in Situwe in Myanmar, like the terminals, several other places. I'm not going to repeat all of them. Those are owned by this company. It's a government company. So similarly, Nepal can have it. One is that Nepal to form a government company and the joint venture. The terminal you have in Birganj, in the same model, and you bid the terminals in India port terminals, or you negotiate with the Indian states, have your own port through this company, and they would be very happy to allow you because there will be an investment, that employment, jobs, opportunities. So these actually, I meant it. Historically, pre-47, there was something which I'm not going to discuss. So this is what, I actually wanted to tell you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pravir, for your out-of-box thinking, and I would say, unconventional ideas. And I think, the government of Nepal and the royal government of Bhutan would take, your suggestions very seriously, and initiate dialogue with government of India on this issue, owning port in Indian soil. Thank you. Well, now let me turn to Mr. Seju. Well, Mr. Seju, you have long experience working with the National Planning Commission and dealing with the issues of development finance. Now, as I mentioned earlier, and even Dr. Ng also, mentioned, this master plan is silent on financing part of the master plan. So my question to you is, what could be the available option to finance the project identified in this master plan? Mr. Seju, over to you.
Thank you, boss. Definitely, actually, you see, there is the financing part is silence in the report. There is no doubt on that part. But you see, when we see the connectivity and infrastructure part, definitely inside the country, definitely the respective country can finance. There is no doubt on that part, because I'm also telling, in the different flow that just like in one of the ICPs in the Nepal, there are 4 ICPs that was supposed to be constructed by India, and that agreement was done in 2005.
Yes.
And by 2022, only two has been handed over to Nepal, and we still one Nepalganj ICP is under construction, but Bhairava ICP is still doubt. I don't know when they will start. So this kind of things, I think it will be better. The respected nation do by itself, not seeking any assistance from the other countries. Isn't it? So that is one part. And even in during about the construction of the Darachani also, we are telling that, and it will be better to seek the assistance from India. Better we should do it by ourselves, isn't it? That is another part. We have to see on that. But other part, there are huge investment necessary. In that part, definitely, it is necessary to seek the financing from the multilateral donors, isn't it? Multilateral agencies. It is necessary. Otherwise, it is not possible to do by country itself, especially for a country like Nepal and Bhutan, small countries. Thank you.
Okay. So another, follow-up questions. How do you see the prospect of funding these projects under BRI and maybe through, you talked about multilateral agencies through AIIB.
No, definitely. I mean, definitely we have to be very careful about the term and condition that we have. There are multiple agencies who can finance on that part. And we have to be very careful on that part, whose conditions and term and condition will be better, I mean, for us, that we have to analyze it very seriously. We say definitely it's a long-term investment. And we have to see, I mean, whether we can get return back from that or not. Isn't it? That is also very necessary. Haphazardly, we should not invest in each and every project, just getting finance from these multilateral organizations. We have to see the situation of the countries itself, whether we can pay back its return back, or whether we can get it returned from that project or not. Isn't it? That is very necessary.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seju. Mr. Bhandari, now I turn to you. Well, you have vast experience of negotiating trade and transit issues of landlocked country, I mean, Bhutan. And you also, I mean, you indicated that there has to be some sort of coordination in the development of infrastructure and the national infrastructure with other member countries. So my question is, how should the need of landlocked member countries be prioritized during the implementation of this master plan? Dr. Bhandari, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pandey. We can learn from experiences of many countries and institutions. There are agreements, international agreements. There's one that I can mention is the TIR Convention. There is one that provides mechanisms for seamless transport, and it's a very old agreement, started in Europe, and it has been applied in other countries, regions. It has not come to our part of the world. One can examine that. The other is obviously, I mean, this has to be done in cooperation with the all member countries, especially the transit countries, right? So that's one. Then the WTO TFA agreement is another one, which provides a framework for transit for landlocked countries. That's especially relevant for countries like Nepal and Bhutan, and the other the Tokyo RKC revised Kyoto Convention, which Dr. Sanju mentioned, and the WTO TFA, Trade Facilitation Agreement, are similar. They seek to promote unhindered transportation of goods from and to landlocked countries. Now, in our region, for historical reasons or for other factors, the transit has always been a bilateral issue, and it's going to be a bilateral issue. Let's face it. We cannot shy away from that. But if there are better practices that we can follow in a broader forum, for instance, with Bhutan, Nepal, India, and Bangladesh coming together, complementing the existing bilateral arrangements by borrowing the good practices of these international agreements, why not do it? Because our objectives are the same. That we want to improve the welfare of our people. We want to increase trade, so that is there, but then of course, as you said, to Prabir, that it has to be a bit of an unconventional thinking. That may take little time, but in the meantime, Dr. Pandey, what we can do, I mean, I listened very carefully to what Dr. Sainju said about the time it takes for Nepalese goods to be cleared at Calcutta. The same applies to Bhutan. And through the ADB project, there has been some improvement, brought about in the Kolkata port for faster clearances and all that. So we should sit with Calcutta port and see where things can be expedited. And let me assure you, and let me tell you, that if we have this documentation compatible and exchangeable within a framework as a regional single window or whatever you call it, I think many of the delays can be shortened, because we can exchange documents electronically rather than submitting physically, and the moment a cargo leaves Kathmandu or Biratnagar or somewhere, the document would already be in Kolkata. They will be anticipating this, and once it comes, it will be faster for them to program and clear it. I'll give you an example. I went on a Fulbright exchange program to the United States of America. That was well back in 1998. All right, that's what, almost 25 years back. And at that time I was as the Director General of Trade, and I specifically asked them to send me to a place called Nogales, which is a crossing point between Mexico and US. And I just to find out, I sat next to this custom post at the border to see how long it took for that truck to enter into USA. You'll be surprised. It took less than a minute. I had my watch. That was in 1998. Now, we have come a long way, political will definitely, accompanied by resources. But then if we have the will, we can find the resources, Dr. Pandey, and why can't we do this? At the moment, I know, even for instance, the Indian government is supposed to construct ICP like in Nepal to the border in Bhutan. In Jaigaon, it is a very congested area. They have no parking facilities. Their office is very outdated. They have agreed to improve it, but it is just taking such a long time. I think each government is occupied with their own things to do, and somehow some of these things don't get prioritized. So in such a fashion, it may even be desirable for the concerned parties. Hey, look, if you can't do it yourself, why don't we combine our strengths? And even if Calcutta port needs development, and it's going to considerably help Nepal and Bhutan, why don't we, Nepal and Bhutan, contribute some money so that that along with Indian financing, of course, so that these facilities can develop. I think we have to think something like that, provided there's a political will. And if there is a political will, I'm sure ADB like organization can finance that component. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Achutji. Well, now I would like to open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand and identify yourselves. And I request you to be brief. Parash?
Yes, Dr. Pandey.
Yes, I'm having problem to connect my laptop. Okay. So could you see the raise hands and the moderator? I mean, this question answer session?
Okay, Dr. Pandey. So there is a question posted by Mr. Kedar Neopani. It's on the chat box.
Okay.
So I'll just run through the question. The BIMSTEC was conceived in 1997, and we are now talking about master plan with a number of shortcomings, as pointed out by Dr. Pravir Dey, even in its 25th year of creation. So the question is there a political agreement at all among the members to implement this regional cooperation, or is it just another lip service like SARC? And his argument is that he's asking this question because different economic models are being adopted by countries in the region. So I think this question goes to anyone in the panel.
Yeah. Pravir, why don't you start?
Okay, very important questions. I could only add here that look, this document has been released. This has been, and this before that it was signed by all the 7 member states, the heads of the 7 member states. So you can see one positive thing, there is a political direction, right? Earlier master plan, if you compare this to the South Asia SARC master plan, or for that matter some others, you won't find the signature of that kind of political push. This is one development, but putting a signature means high political concordance may not help in translating into the project. This also needs to be, that's what the question is all about. Will that remain as a political document, economic model, or we will translate it into more kind of a new projects for the region? The word he used, the esteemed participants, the lip service. So I won't say it's a lip service. It is a document signed by heads of the states. Now, see, implementing these old document, because this has been on 2018, we're going to complete we're going to enter 5th year, the next 2023. So at 2018 price, this odd 60 plus projects with an odd 60 billion, it may not be that much needed, that may not serve our region's requirement. So this is one shortcomings. This is an old document. So that's what I said in my report, that this document has to be elevated, and why you elevate it to higher level, you factor in or you take care some of the other points which I have suggested. So certainly it is not a lip service. It is a good political thrust push is there. I can see it. Translating that into a project, you need huge crowding in of private sectors, large infrastructure companies who will be part of the cross-border projects, as well as ADB kind of multilateral development banks. If those are not there, it will, as I said in my presentation, it will be there in as a document. We could not implement our projects which the region is need, region's requirement. So this much I can only add here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So there is a raised hand by Mr. Purushottam Oza. Mr. Oza, please go ahead and please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for the nice presentation. Of course, the presentation from Pravir Dey as well as from Ravi Shanju, it was quite comprehensive and insightful. I have a couple of questions as well as observation. In Pravir's presentation, you have said that the master plan, in one of the slides, you have said that the master plan is vetted. It has been signed by the, it has been, of course, adopted by the fifth BIMSTEC summit in Colombo. And in another side, you are saying that we are recommending that the master plan has to be upgraded at the higher level of government. I think it seems a little bit contradicting to me. And what I see that the main issues in any master plan is the implementation issue. What we have seen in the past that during 2006-2007, BIMSTEC transport infrastructure and logistic study was done. The study was carried out during 2006-2007 with the ADB assistance. But I don't know what happened to that, because it has identified various corridors. During the same time, we also had this SARC Regional Multimodal Transport Study, SRMTS. Both of these study report have identified various corridors to connect, to have the connectivity within the region, within the SARC region as well as the BIMSTEC region. But if you see the implementation rate, it is very much slow. It is very much less. So what I see that the important part, of course, there are some projects going on, although albeit in a very slow pace. Now, what I feel that we need to focus on soft part. That is very much important. When talking about the soft issues, the presentation, during the presentation, it has also been cited that use of infrastructure, ICT, of course, information and communication technology for cross-border transaction, that is very much important. And of course, second, what I see that we need to go for simplification, standardization, and harmonization of the trade and transport related documents and procedure. And above all, this needs to be vetted. It needs to be supported, backed by the agreements at the, it may be at the bilateral level or the sub-regional level or the regional level, like the mutual recognition agreement on SPS, and agreement on border procedures. There are several things that we have to sort out at the soft side, rather than going for the hard side. Of course, what I mean to say that we have to go for the development of the hard infrastructure, although it is going in a very slow pace. At the same time, we have to go for developing the soft infrastructure and concluding agreements, creating a kind of regulatory, necessary regulatory framework to operationalize the cross-border transportation. That is very much important. And these are some low-hanging fruit that we can embark upon. So, for example, I can tell you that overall, over the several years, during the past decades, we have talked about the simplification and the transit procedures, and reducing cost, transaction cost in Birganj Calcutta corridor. So it has not yet been happening. So what I mean to say that we need to focus on this type of thing, rather than going for developing big infrastructure and the port, one port in India. Actually, I have my one experience that it took several years for us to develop the land area that has been allocated to Nepal Transit and Warehousing Company in Calcutta. It took several years. There were several hassles in doing that. So I think while talking about wanting one port in India, as has been proposed by Dr. Pravir, I think it is at the moment maybe an utopian idea, but let us hope that it will happen later rather than sooner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oja. Is there any further questions?
From my part.
From your part, okay.
That was Mr. Purushottam Oja, former Commerce Secretary, Government of Nepal. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Dr. Prabir, would you like to respond?
Yeah, quickly to respond to Purushottamji. Two things. One is, which is the second one, let me answer first. See, I mean, for 75 years, you have been looking at transit facility through Kolkata, Haldia, and then Visakhapatnam, and also you can allow go to Bangladesh and also some other ports in the western side. There are studies, and Purushottamji and many others of you are aware of it, that bad port is actually harm your international trade much deeper, much badly than any kind of trade other barriers. But because you depend on a port, you are a landlocked nation, and very important nation for us. Now, 75 years you could not negotiate a dedicated terminal for you, neither at Kolkata, neither at Haldia, neither at Vizag. You get access facilities. So I thought that there is a way to spend some more 5-10 years to own, negotiate and own a port, and which can give you 175 years, right? So that's the logic. This is not a forum to discuss, all those things. We could debate it, in some other place, some other, forum. That's the point. Second is what Honorable former Secretary, he mentioned the first questions about the that's the contradiction. There's no contradiction. The document, you yourself said that it is BTILS, the earlier name, you attended, and me to many others. This BTILS fizzled out because of their internal issues. This is not a place to discuss. Dr. Tham, who is still, online, he may not feel, good. So that later on, took a rebirth in the name of BIMSTEC Connectivity Master Plan. And it's negotiated, the text completed in 2018, because India is, that time was chair of connectivity in the BIMSTEC, out of the 14 areas of cooperation. So it is everything is 2018. Leaders, they wanted to sign it as soon as possible, as soon as the report got completed. 2016, after the mini summit, there was a political direction to the Secretariat and the ADB to complete the report. 2018, it was done. Thereafter, texts lying into different places in India, member states, they got to freeze the text, but COVID came and all got delayed. But leaders wanted to put a signature, you have to show, you have done lots of things during the summit. Otherwise, how do you justify having a summit, So that's why one of them, is putting a signature on an old document in 2018. So that's what. If I am not correct, somebody should give me, better pictures. So this is very specific. In the text which I have written in the slides, in between the two slides, there is no confusion to me. Perhaps I should change the text. All I wanted to meant that this is an old document, 2018 negotiated. Price is the 2018 price. This was signed in 2022. That doesn't mean that it is a new document to us. That's it. I should give a clarificatory statement during my speech. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Dr. Pravir, for your clarifications. Well, I don't see any other hand raised, so I am towards the end of this webinar. And in the final note, I'm not going to summarize this very rich discussion. I think that's beyond my capacity. Nonetheless, I would highlight some takeaways. And here I would like to emphasize that efficient transport system is necessary condition for the success of BIMSTEC as a regional economic group. For the implementation of master plan, the cornerstone of the connectivity, we should address both physical and software parts of the connectivity. Physical connectivity or physical infrastructure that links countries and or regions together through road, rail, air, maritime transport, telecommunication, power, digital connectivity, and other networks alone would not be sufficient for regional connectivity. Physical infrastructures needs to be complemented with software aspects of connectivity, which includes government policies, institutions, rules, regulations, procedures, administrative capacity to deal with the system related to beyond the border, at the border, and behind the border. While implementing the master plan, all of viable sources of finance should be explored, and the interest of landlocked countries, as well as the interest of micro, small, and medium enterprises should be protected. With this note, I thank Ganesh Prasad Pandey for his inaugural remarks, Dr. Thiemhe Eng for his keynote speech, Dr. Pravi Dey and Mr. Ravi Seju for trigger presentation. I would also like to thank Mr. Achut Bhandari for making the webinar much more lively, and the participants for adding values in the discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you, sir.
now it's namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.